Hi, friends. Welcome to mindfulness exercises and today's guided meditation. I am Sarah May, and I will be guiding you today in this practice of developing and cultivating mudita. But before we get to that, I do want to say that this is not live, although we are live streaming it. It is a pre-recorded meditation. So hello to all who are watching it as if it were live, and hello to everyone that is watching this in the future. Whether you are on LinkedIn or Facebook and YouTube, welcome. Um, but yeah, even though it is pre-recorded, I really invite you to write in the comments, write in the chat box, where you are listening from, say hello. Not only saying hello to me, of course, I would love to see who's here, but really saying hello to your fellow meditators, right? By typing into the chat box and letting us know where you are listening from. You're letting everybody that's listening understand that we are all here as part of a community, that we are surrounded by fellow meditators from all over the world. And that's always really nice to see, really nice to know that, whenever you're watching this video, wherever you are supported here. By a community of fellow meditators, and we can all share in that support. So thank you for being here. I happen to be recording this right now from Portland, Maine. So that is where I am here on vacation in the lovely northeastern United States. And I'd love to see where you guys are listening from as well. So um, for today's meditation, I wanted to focus on mudita. And mudita is a Sanskrit word, which we can think of as joy, right? But it's a specific variety of joy. It's an empathetic joy. It is a shared joy. It is vicarious joy, sympathetic joy. Mudita is a joy that we share with others, right? So why would we want to intentionally practice developing and cultivating this empathetic joy, this mudita? Well, we've done meditations in the past on sensing into joy and connecting to the feeling of joy within our own bodies. And this is a that type of meditation, right? Sensing and feeling into joy. But it's not always easy for us to sense into a joy we perceive as our own, right? Um, we might feel as though we are not deserving of joy. We might feel guilty for experiencing joy and resting in joy. We might look around, we see, all this pain and all this suffering in the world. And when that's going on, who am I to sit here and feel into joy and to be joyful, right? We might feel uncomfortable with being present with the feeling of joy, right? It might just be something that we're not very practiced in, and it just brings up feelings of discomfort, right? We're unfamiliar with joy. We might not know how to access joy, right? It's not easy for us to get to joy. So these are all reasons why it might be easier for us to work with another person's joy, right? We've all had that experience of just like, feeling so much joy when we see the happiness of a loved one, right? Like our child is joyful and happy and our heart just melts, or it's the happiness of a loved one, a partner, or the happiness of a pet, Personally, all the time when I see how joyful my dog is when he's running around and playing and doing what he loves, like that really opens my heart and that really helps me connect to that feeling of joy, right? So this is one reason why we might want to intentionally work with the practice of muditas, because sometimes it's easier for us to access joy and to learn to be present with joy by feeling into it through the experience of another, you know. And another reason why we might cultivate mudita is because we're not very good at it, right? When it's not always easy for us to share joy with another because we want that joy for ourselves, right? If we don't believe that joy is infinite and abundant and equally available to all beings at all times and all places, right? We see somebody else getting what they want or happy or joyful and we get jealous, right? Or we get mad, right? Why do they have that? They're not deserving of happiness or joy, right? More specifically, do I believe that I'm more deserving of happiness or joy than they are? We might see another joy in another, and it brings up feelings of resentment or anger, right? Why should that person be joyful? Why should that person be happy, right? So this is something that we want to observe too. This is something that we want to notice. This is something we want to work with. Because the truth is there is plenty of joy to go around, my friends, right? And we become part of this process of expanding joy and really, you know, feeling into the truth of the abundance of joy when we learn to share in the joy of others. If we can feel into the joy of others, if we can, share in joy, suddenly there's more joy in the world that becomes available to us, right? Oh, that person over there has something that's making them happy. They're joyful, right? That's not taking away from my joy. Actually, if I share in that joy with them over there, then I too can become joyful, right? And now I have more joy too, right? And so we can see how this works. That if we share in the joy of others, there's more joy all around. Rising water raises all ships, right? So we just suddenly live in a more joyful world. But this is something that we have to practice, right? Because it might not be in a habit of ours to share with the joy of others in this way. If I ride your happiness and if I can sense into it as if it were my own, in doing that, your joy does become my own, right? So this practice, not only makes us kinder and more compassionate and more equanimous human beings, but it really teaches us how to be more available for joy, right? To notice, to observe, to allow, and to accept joy into our lives, right? Even if that's a joy that at first we don't perceive as our own, right? So that's what we're going to practice today. So let's begin with our meditation. I believe this will be about a 15-20 minute meditation. So give yourself that time, right? We are obviously all watching this on a screen, on a device. So I do suggest, turning off your notifications, putting your device on do not disturb. And as we set up here, you are, of course, invited to close your eyes or at least look down away from your screen and kind of minimize those visual distractions. So let's settle in. Find a tall, upright, and yet comfortable meditation posture. Again, you can close your eyes if you'd like, or just gaze low. Maybe take a few deep, full breaths in and out through the nose. And just sense into the body for a moment. Sense into the breath. Let the chin drop. Let the back of the neck be long. Let the shoulders release. Soft belly. And bring in ease. Invite in ease to the thighs, the low body. Let yourself be here. Give yourself this time. And give yourself this presence. And as we begin, let's just bring to mind this simple truth that all beings everywhere only want to be free from their pain and suffering and only want to be happy, to rest in joy. Let's say that again and really sense into that truth. At the most foundational level, all beings everywhere, including ourselves, we only want to be free from our pain and suffering. We only want to be happy, content, and joyful. So our intention with today's meditation is to celebrate and to rejoice in the happiness of others. And as you sit here breathing, just observe how that feels in body and mind. As we work with empathetic joy, mudita, no right or wrong, this is just a practice. So we'll put self-judgment, self-criticism aside. And just allow for whatever arises as we practice, sensing into and celebrating and rejoicing in the happiness of others. So we'll begin by bringing to mind someone you know. Someone who's happy, someone who's joyful. Maybe it's someone who appears happy and joyful all the time. Or maybe you can recall just a single moment when someone you know, got exactly what they wanted. When someone you know was experiencing great awe or joy or wonder or celebration. This could be a loved one, a moment when someone you loved and really deeply cared for was experiencing great happiness. Perhaps a child or a partner or a pet, right? We can recall a time when they were just completely overtaken by joy. Maybe we want to work with someone a bit more challenging. Somebody that we are jealous of, right? Somebody who has something that we want. Right? But choose wisely, choose with care, choose with kindness, right? Honoring your window of tolerance right here and right now. Like, who are you prepared to work with today? And we'll picture this person sitting across from you, this very real person, joyful person. Picture them in their moment of joy. Maybe you can see them smiling, laughing. Maybe you are observing what it is that they're doing when they're just so joyful and content. And also at the same time, notice what's happening in your body, in your mind. Observing your feelings towards this person. In their moment of complete and utter joy. And again, there's no right and no wrong. This is just an exercise in observation. What is it like to have this joyful person here? To share this space with them, to imagine them sitting directly across from you. And just sense into that for a bit. In this moment, this person is joyful. This person is happy. And can I be present with that joy and that happiness? And can I sense into it as if it were my own? Can I be present with their happiness? Can I allow and hold space for their happiness? And what does it feel like to connect to that happiness, to share in it? And to sense it as if it were my own. Also observe if there's any resistance to that. Notice if there's any discomfort arising. But also just allow for the expansion of this person's happiness. Here they are, seated across from you. Can we allow ourselves to sense into their joy as if it was our own? Can I pretend? Can I pretend that their joy is my own? And if I'm really good at pretending, what's the difference? What's the difference between memory of happiness and joy and present moment happiness or joy? Whose joy is it? If I'm sensing and feeling into the joy of another and giving myself over to that experience, whose joy is it? And the only reason I can even recognize happiness and joy in another is because happiness and joy exists within me too. So why should I deny myself the experience of happiness in this moment by refusing or resisting to rejoice in the happiness of others? Right? Why not sense into happiness, the happiness of others? You have nothing to lose by sharing in another's joy, except maybe resentments or jealousy or pettiness, self-centeredness or anger. And I have everything to gain by sensing into the happiness of others. Greater empathy, compassion, a bigger and more open heart, a heart full of joy and happiness. And so I practice allowing for the happiness of others and sensing into it and feeling into it and being present with it. If I can share in this person's joy, there become even more opportunities for me to feel joyful. So let's reflect for a moment on a more joyful future. What would it be like? What would it feel like to be more practiced in recognizing joy? Not only in ourselves, but in everyone around us. And what would it be like? What would it feel like in the body to be more practiced in connecting to joy, allowing for joy? So sense into this person that we've invited to sit across from us. Look at them again. Just like me, this person only wants to be free from their pain, from their suffering. And just like me, this person only wants to be happy and joyful, content. How wonderful that they are joyful and happy in this moment. Because I can share in that too. So just take a moment to observe and to notice if your relationship to this person has changed in any way. And if it hasn't, that's okay too. Take a moment to sense into the heart space. Notice if you feel a little more softness, a little more spaciousness. And if you don't, that's okay too. But Allow yourself maybe to just rest, enjoy a little bit. Give yourself a little smile. Observing and noticing that there is an energy of happiness here. There's an energy of happiness here, and where does that come from? Does it come from this imagined happy person sitting across from you? Does it come from your body, your mind? Or has this happiness just always been here? Is perhaps happiness just is? Perhaps this joy is ever present, just waiting to be recognized. And so before we close this meditation, we'll thank this happy person for joining us here. Perhaps bow to them a little bit. Thank them for their participation in our meditation. Send them on their way. Even as they go, even as they part, do we still have just a greater sense of well-being in this moment, right here, right now? Having given ourselves this time to just be present in contemplation. Take a moment to recognize the benefits that you've received through your practice today. Maybe closing with a little commitment to carry those benefits with you as you move about your day. Allowing them to extend to every being with whom you cross paths for the rest of today. So open your eyes when you're ready. Maybe take a moment to stretch things out a little bit. Place your feet back on the ground if legs were crossed, or just, feel into breath, feel into body again. And before you move, before you stand up, before you walk around, just allowing yourself to be for a moment, just kind of basking in the effects of your practice, basking in the benefits of your practice. And make this transition now into the rest of your day with purpose, with intention, right? Move slowly from meditation space into real world space and carry the benefits of the practice with you, right? So thank you guys so much for joining me here today, for joining each other in this meditation on the practice of mudita and developing and really expanding mudita, our capacity to share joy with others, right? Our capacity to really sense into empathetic joy, right? Because if I can embody your joy, right? Well, then whose joy is it, right? If I am embodying the joy of another, doesn't it become my joy, right? So it's a really great way to access happiness and joy. It's a really great practice to have. Um, and yeah, play with it. Play with it on the cushion. Play with it off of the cushion. That is my invitation to you. And I will see you in the same time and space next Monday, or anytime if you'd like to look back on these videos and these guided meditations on either LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube with mindfulnessexercises.com. And of course, you can always go to the mindfulnessexercises.com website to download hundreds and hundreds of other guided meditations and guided meditation scripts on mudita, on happiness, on joy, and on any other topic, right? So thank you, friends. Be well, and we'll see you next Monday.